Let's review some congruent triangles here. So first section here, we're going to look for all of our congruent parts and decide if the triangles are congruent. So first off, we got some given things. So on this one, we know that angle A is congruent to angle E. We also know that AC is congruent to CE. Those are given, they're marked. We also got these vertical angles here. Always be looking out for vertical angles. And so we got angle ACB is congruent to DCE. All right, DCE. Order doesn't matter when you're just talking about angles. Those are vertical angles, all right? And so the directions here say if it's not given, give a reason. So let's give a reason that it's vertical angles. Okay, vertical angles are congruent. So now we have, on both triangles, we've got two angles and a side between them. So by angle, side, angle, we know that angle ABC is congruent to, now A is the first letter, and it's marked, so E has to be the first letter here in our other triangle. And then B goes to D, because B is unmarked and D is unmarked. And the C's correspond, so we got that, okay? So that's angle, side, angle. Now we got some overlapping triangles here. If it helps with these overlapping triangles, draw them separate. We've got this triangle here, and then we've got another one here. And so this one is T and S and K, and this other one is E and S and K. All right, and so things that are given, let's start with that. We've got angle T is congruent to angle E, that's marked. And we've got angle, got to use three letters here, EKS, that's this one here, is congruent to angle TSK. So those are given. Now what's not marked, now we need to mark those here, by the way. T is congruent to E. And then this S here is congruent to this K. Okay. What's not marked is this KS is congruent to KS. And that is our reflexive property. Okay, reflexive means it's the same thing. KS and KS are the same thing, so of course they're the same. All right, so reflexive property there. And now, looking at what's marked, we have two angles and a side that's not between them. Two angles, congruent, and a side that's not between them. So that reason is angle, angle, side. And so KTS here, KTS, unmarked, double marked, single mark, is congruent to SEK. So triangle SEK. Get those guys in the right order. All right. Now we've got some triangles, and we know some things about these triangles here. First of all, we got angles on the inside, add up to 180. So all these angles, 3x plus 2x plus 13 plus 57, and that equals 180. All right, so a little bit of solving, 5x, and this adds up to 70 equals 180. So if we subtract 70 from both sides, we get 110. And then we can divide by 5. And 5 goes into 120 times. So it's going to go into 110 22 times. So x is 22. Now we're going to need to know those angles here. So let's plug in that 22 here. So if x is 22 and 22, that makes this angle 66 degrees. And 2 times 22 plus 13 is 44. Plus 13 gives us 57 degrees. Now this is an exterior angle here. Remember that the two remote interior angles add up to that exterior angle. So y is equal to that 57 plus 66. And 50 and 60 is 110. And 7 and 6 make 13. So 123 degrees. Okay. Let's go like this. That's the key there. Here, actually a little bit easier here. These two remote interior angles add up to the exterior angle, all right? So 35 plus 15, and that is 50. All right, so that's the exterior angle theorem and the interior angle theorem. Okay, let's try the next page here. Now we're going to use our triangle congruence theorems. So on this first section here, there's not enough information to prove that the triangles are congruent. We need to figure out what else we need. Here we've got two sides. We also have this reflexive property. FH is congruent to FH. That's almost given. We want this to be side, 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 so we ask ourselves, what else do we need? Well, we wish we knew that BF and FH were congruent. That's what we need to know. If we did, then we would have side, side, side. Okay? This one over here, we know we got some congruent sides here, QR and RH. And we also have the vertical angles. We can mark those. They're not given, but they just are congruent because of the way it's drawn. And then we've got, we want side angle side. So we wish we knew that SR was congruent to RJ. We don't know it, but we would like to know it. If we did know that, then the triangles would be congruent by side angle side. All right, that's how those kind of problems work. This next one here, Susan claims that MN is congruent to MN. Well, over here, that is a true statement. And what is that property? We've said it a few times. That's the reflexive property. Okay, so because of the way it's drawn, we just know that that's true. NM is in both triangles, and it's congruent because it's really the same thing. Now Susan says that that's enough for the triangles to be congruent. Well, we got an angle and a side in this triangle. In this triangle, we know a congruent angle and a congruent side. Okay, so angle side, is that enough? No, it's not. We need at least 3 pieces of information, okay? So 3 parts are needed for triangle congruence. So angle side is not enough. Okay. So now we're going to do some proofs here. So we want to prove here we've got this triangle. First one's pretty straightforward. Okay. Now we're going to prove these two triangles congruent, so we'll set it up. We have our statements and our reasons, and we can always start with our given. We don't have to, but it's a nice, easy way to start. Okay, so GH and JK are the same, and GK is congruent to HJ. So we've got actually a lot of information here that's given. 2 parts in the triangle, and well, this is almost too easy. Merry Christmas. HK is congruent to HK, and that is that reflexive property. Okay. And then that's enough. Look at what's marked there, and we can see that all the sides are congruent in both triangles. And so that is side, side, side. So the side, side, side theorem says if 3 triangles are congruent to 3 triangles, then the triangles must be congruent. Now 7 and 8 are related here. They are really the same thing, so we're just going to do one proof and just tack on a number 8 at the end. All right, so we got a statement, reason, and we got our givens. And we see that these 2 triangles are overlapping. Actually, it looks like these are the same ones from the front page, huh? Too easy. Well, so they're overlapping triangles, so it's a good idea to draw them out. Let's try that again. There we go. There's A, C, B, and then we've got this guy right here, and that's DCB. Okay, so that's these two triangles here. This one here, and this other one over here. So those are the triangles we're trying to prove congruent, all right? So we can mark what the given that we already have. That's a good idea. D is congruent to A. And then we've got this B congruent to this C, okay? And so we just need one more part, actually, so it's not going to be too tough here. And so we're looking for a side. We've got to have some kind of side. And we can see that BC is congruent to BC. And that is our reflexive property. Okay? So we've seen that reflexive property a few times. So be ready for that. Be looking for that. And let's mark that on our drawing. And now we can see that the triangles are congruent now because we've got angle, angle, side. So ABC is congruent to triangle DCE by angle, angle, side. All right, should number that. Now, we've proved that triangles are congruent. Now, on question 8, we want to prove that AB is congruent to DC. Well, AB is just this side of one of the triangles, and DC is this right side of the other triangle. And so to do this proof, we'd have to go through all of this. So I'm just going to leave it there. And we're going to add on to it. All right. So we're going to go a little bit further. Now that we know the triangles are congruent, we can say that AB must be congruent to DC. And that is because of the triangles are congruent, so the parts are congruent. That means the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So since we know the triangles are congruent, then all the other little pieces have to be congruent, because congruent means exactly the same size. Okay? So there you have it. That's how we do those proofs and work with triangles.